YouTube. As you can see, I'm sitting in the car. Decided to do a little car chat with you, have a little conversation. You can practice your listening comprehension, and I can tell you a story. And this just kind of came to me, and I had to stop by the courthouse to pay for my vehicle registration. If you haven't seen that video I did a while back about getting your vehicle registration, hey, check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. But I had a little time to kill, as we say in English. I had a little free time, maybe 5-10 minutes, and thought I would tell you a story that you might find interesting. Here in, the United States, people think of it as a country or land of opportunity. Maybe the streets are paved with gold and you can make your fortune here, and a lot of that does happen. But there's also a flip side, we say, or there's another side, a different side, a side that maybe people don't see all the time. People may not want to see or don't think of, but there's a lot of good things in this country, but there's also a lot of not so good things, and that's in every country I know. But I want to tell you a story about a lady named Audrey, and she's an older lady. We say she's a senior citizen, and Audrey's about 83, 84 years old. So as some of you may know, every Wednesday I volunteer at the senior center here in my city, and I help deliver food or meals to elderly people or people that have certain disabilities. And I said I do that every Wednesday. I get there around 10 o'clock. It takes me about an hour, hour and a half. I have a route of maybe 20 to 20 homes, and I just drive my car to each house and drop off the meal to each house. So I remember the first time I did the route, I came to Audrey's house, and I noticed there was this elderly lady just sitting outside. But what struck me, and struck me doesn't mean like physically striking or struck me, but what I noticed that was kind of maybe a little surprising, so it struck me, something I noticed that was surprising. There was a lot of junk and trash kind of outside the house, all around the house, and wasn't picked up. And I have never gone inside the house, but I'm assuming it's in the same condition. There's a lot of stuff. So it looks to me, or appears to me, that Audrey is what we call a hoarder. A hoarder. This is somebody who just accumulates a lot of stuff, accumulates a lot of junk, somebody that can't get rid of or throw away things. And so she was sitting outside, and she was very chatty. We say very chatty. I mean, she likes to chat, she likes to talk. So we would talk, and I found out a little bit more about her. She, like I said, she's about 83, 84 years old. She lives by herself in this house. And the bad thing is she has a little difficulty moving around. She walks kind of slow. I say she walks hunched over, like bent over. And like I said, she moves very slowly and has a little difficulty moving. And in my opinion, we say she has no business living by herself. That means she should not be living by herself. There's no reason she should be living by herself. So the first thing that came to mind, which means the first thing that I thought of, was where does she have any children? Where are her children? Can they help her out? Why aren't they helping her out? I think somebody really needs to move her out of this house. So she told me several stories. She said she had some problems with the plumbing. She hired a contractor, but she said they ended up stealing from her. stealing money from her, and they didn't fix the problem. She said found out later she has 2 sons. And so I thought, well, why are her sons doing anything to help her? And she told me, well, one son had a serious heart attack, we call a widowmaker, which is usually most people die instantly from a widowmaker. And it's called a widowmaker because it makes the person, I guess, say if you're married and your spouse has a widowmaker, then the person who lives is a widow or surviving spouse of the person that dies. And apparently this son is in very bad physical condition. And the second son has a very bad case, or he suffers from diabetes. And apparently they had to amputate or cut off 1 or 2 of his legs, and he's battling diabetes very badly. So both of her children have very serious health conditions. But she says she has quite a few grandchildren, and one granddaughter, she said, was very close to her and is always checking on her. But to me, that doesn't seem to be the case, or doesn't seem to be the actual situation, because if the granddaughter was checking on her, she would see the condition that Audrey is living in. And although I think the granddaughter is in college, maybe she would try to help her or do something. So it really affects me when every time I go see Audrey, she's sitting outside the house for most of the time. So several times she told me that she didn't have air conditioning. One time she even told me that her power went out in the house in the evening, so she and her little dog had to sleep outside on the front porch until the power came back on. Can you imagine that? A person 83, 84 years old having to sleep outside. But she said it in a way that it was like, well, well, it's something that happened and something that I had to do. And she kind of took it in stride. We say she took it as just something normal, something that she had to do. But it really kind of bothers me that people here in this country have to live in a situation like that. So I told the manager at the senior center what I noticed, and that Audrey needs some help. And she said she was aware of the situation. She had already reported it to the county, because the county is the organization that helps people like Audrey, people in need, and they were working on her case. So, but recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, when I was delivering food, I noticed it said, well, don't deliver a meal to Audrey this week, because she didn't say why, but apparently she's not at home, and she hasn't been home for the last 3 weeks, which leads me to believe, and I think that something has happened to Audrey. More than likely, she's probably in the hospital, or maybe she moved out and is staying somewhere else. So, I can just pray for her and hope everything works out. But I hope that she will not have to move back in or go back to that house and live by herself. So maybe there's a silver lining, we say, in this situation, like it's something good can happen out of a bad situation, and she will be able to get the help and assistance that she needs. So that's a story I wanted to tell you about this lady named Audrey. So hopefully you were able to follow that story and maybe learned a few new words and expressions. So again, hey, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about it. And thanks for watching this channel and this video on Learn Everyday English. Hey, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.